He said people still have to wash behind their ears at night.
There was a textural reality to it, and that was breathtaking. No one had seen that before.
And that was another wonderful touch. Influenced me when I did Alien. I thought I'd better push it a bit further and make them like truck drivers.
It certainly affected us. I mean, Lord of the Rings has an ethos which is very much based on that of Star Wars, which is make the world believable, have everything a bit dirty, have everything a little bit run down and worn down, because that realism is just the first building block towards creating a connection with the characters.
The company George Lucas founded to make the special effects for Star Wars created a new standard for realism in visual effects.
ILM was spawned out of Star Wars, and Star Wars was such a huge earthquake in the visual effects business.
A big part of it is the miniatures were so detailed. You know, we just weren't used to seeing that. He would create a whole new idea of what can be built and where it exists and what is the relationship in size between a ship and that space.
I'd read in the magazines that the Star Wars effects guy had taken bits of plastic model kits and glued them on to provide some of that detail on the surface of the spaceships.
There were more innovations to come. In the years after Star Wars, ILM put a new palette of storytelling tools into the hands of filmmakers, allowing director Barry Levinson to bring his stained glass knight to life in young Sherlock Holmes, giving Ron Howard the ability to create the morphing sequence in Willow, making a mining car fly in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
There are so many ways in which ILM has moved the ball downfield and really kind of set the bar higher for all the other companies as well.
Bud?
On the Abyss, that sequence, the pseudopod sequence, it was such an iffy thing. No one had really incorporated a CG character, let's say, into a photorealistic film in that way.
Like a stone dropped into a pond, the ripples of George Lucas's innovation continue to be felt in a series of breakthroughs that have expanded the boundaries of what is possible in cinema, giving an entire generation of filmmakers the ability to make their dreams real.
We were certainly pushing the envelope on Titanic in a number of small incremental ways.
You have to stay on the ship as long as possible, come on!
There were a few big shots of the ship sinking that were incredibly complex, and I wanted to give it to a company that I knew I could trust, and so they went to ILM. We've reached a point collectively where the only limitation is your imagination.
Get out!
And that's a unique thing, because that condition hasn't really existed before in the history of filmmaking.
ILM has given a tremendous gift to the world, and especially to the world of filmmaking and filmmakers. They have freed our imaginations, and they have allowed us to dream and be guaranteed that our dreams will come true on the screen.
Going beyond the world of visual effects, Lucasfilm became an innovator in motion picture sound and editing, creating the Edit Droid, which led to revolutionary changes in film editing and was a precursor to the nonlinear editing systems in use today.
The Edit Droid was one of the pioneering works. Lucasfilm really was the only place at that time willing to take a risk. And George did take the risk.
That risk paid off handsomely for filmmakers around the world who have used the tools pioneered by Lucasfilm to create a new era of cinematic achievement.
It came from George just feeling somehow that technology ought to make our film-going experience be better. He always conveyed a sense of owing something to his industry. His charter wasn't say, go out and make a product and we're going to form a company to sell this product. It was, let's make something which is good for the filmmaking.
Along the way, Lucas created a computer division which was later sold and became the award-winning company Pixar, creators of films like Finding Nemo.
He had gathered together the most amazing researchers and scientists and computer programmers, and everybody. It was just the cream of the cream. And their whole focus was developing a system that you could animate objects and characters with the computer.
Just as Star Wars is the story of freedom from enslavement, it's remarkable in the way that George Lucas was able to not be enslaved to studios following Star Wars. And that spirit of independence and the value of independence has allowed the technology of film to move forward because of all the investments that George Lucas has made in digital sound and digital editing and digital photography and digital effects. And all of us who are making films today are benefiting from that.
Armed with revolutionary digital tools, today's filmmakers continue to push the medium forward. Yet none of them can forget the film that opened the door, pointing the way to their cinematic future.
Star Wars is really what inspired me to want to make the kind of films that we've pursued.
Turned me around 180 degrees as to what I felt I ought to be doing. And what's interesting is that the next film I made was Alien.
It actually gave me a big sort of kick up the backside to get going as a filmmaker.
I think when Star Wars would come out this year, when nobody knew about it, and it would be exactly the same film, it would be the biggest hit of all time.
It was the perfect film to inspire a sense of wonder and a sense of enthusiasm about being a filmmaker.
I told you I'd make it someday.
May the Force be with you.
Star Wars was the first time really that I'd had a concept that filmmakers, i.e. George Lucas, were shy, retiring types of people. The types of kids that didn't have girlfriends and weren't picked for the sports team. And this was like me, you know, I was living thousands of miles away, but I could recognize so much of myself and what I was reading about this guy who made Star Wars, George Lucas. I mean, the media were full of how shy and quiet he was, and yet it gave all of us who felt we were very similar, it gave us a lot of hope that we could persevere and achieve the sort of things that he achieved.